The great hall of Zephyria Prime buzzed with quiet conversation as hundreds of beings from across the galaxy gathered for the weekly myth circle. The massive crystal dome above them showed the swirling colors of 3 suns setting behind purple clouds. Elder Vextar moved slowly to the center of the circle, his crystalline body catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns across the floor. Commander Zaraketh settled into her seat near the back. As a young officer in the Sauron fleet, she had little time for old stories, but her duties required her to attend these cultural events. Her scaled green skin reflected the soft glow from the crystal walls as she watched the old storyteller. Prepare to speak. Tonight I will tell you the greatest myth in our galaxy. Elder Vextar began, his voice echoing through the hall like wind chimes. The story of the humans. A ripple of laughter went through the crowd. Even the younglings knew. This tale, it was the most impossible story ever told, full of creatures so strange that no one could believe they were real. Long ago, in the outer rim of our galaxy, there was a small blue world called Earth, the elder continued. On this world lived beings unlike any we have ever known. They walked on 2 legs like the Sorens, but they had no scales. They were small like the Corvin, but they had no natural armor. They were curious like the telepaths, but they could not read minds. Commander Keth shifted in her seat. She had heard this story dozens of times, but something about the way the elder told it always made her uncomfortable. The humans in the myths were described as weak creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. Yet somehow they had conquered their entire world. These humans had 3 gifts that made them different from all other life. Elder Vextar said, raising one crystalline finger. First, they never gave up. Even when facing death, even when all hope was lost, they would keep fighting. Stories say they once fought a war that lasted 4 years and killed millions of their own kind, yet neither side would surrender. The crowd murmured. Such stubbornness seemed foolish to most galactic species, who understood when to retreat and regroup. Second, the elder continued, they could make friends with anyone. The myths tell of humans who tamed wild beasts larger than themselves. They kept small creatures called dogs as companions, and these animals would die to protect their human friends. Some stories even say humans could make peace between natural enemies. Dr. Finn Korvik leaned forward in his seat. As the Council's chief scientist who studied old civilizations, he had spent 30 years looking for proof that humans existed. He had found nothing. No ruins, no artifacts, no trace of their technology. The blue world the myths described was real enough, but it showed no signs of advanced life. The 3rd gift was the strangest of all, Elder Vextar said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the hall. Humans could turn anything into a weapon. They made tools for farming and used them to fight wars. They built machines to carry cargo and turned them into tanks. They even learned to split atoms, not for power, but to create bombs that could destroy entire cities. Commander Keth felt her scales prickle. This part of the myth always disturbed her. Her own people had advanced weapons, but they were designed for specific purposes. The idea of beings who could make deadly tools from peaceful ones seemed wrong. Somehow. But the greatest human achievement, the elder continued, was their conquest of space. According to the legends, they had no natural ability to survive in the void. They could not breathe the thin air of high altitudes like the wind dancers. They could not withstand radiation like the crystal folk. They had no telepathic abilities to guide them through hyperspace like the mind touched. The hall grew quieter. Every species in the council had some natural advantage that helped them reach the stars. The Sorens had thick scales that protected them from cosmic radiation. The Corvin could enter hibernation for long journeys. The various telepathic races could navigate by sensing the thoughts of distant minds. Yet the myths say that humans reached their moon using nothing but determination and primitive chemical rockets. They built space stations with their bare hands. They sent robot explorers to other worlds in their system, decades before they could travel there themselves. And finally, they achieved faster-than-light travel through pure stubbornness, refusing to accept that it was impossible. Dr. Korvac shook his head. He had studied the physics involved in faster-than-light travel. It required either natural telepathic abilities to navigate hyperspace or incredibly advanced technology to create artificial space tunnels. The idea that a species could achieve it through determination alone was ridiculous. The last part of the human myth, Elder Vextar said, tells of their great journey. Faced with problems on their home world, they built a massive fleet and set out to explore the galaxy. The stories say they traveled for 200 years, learning and growing stronger until they were ready to meet other civilizations as equals. Commander Keth glanced around the hall. Many of the younger beings looked bored or amused. The human myths were entertaining, but everyone knew they were just stories. No species could survive a 200-year journey through space. No civilization could remain united during such a long voyage. And certainly no beings as weak and primitive as the mythical humans could build ships capable of crossing the galaxy. Some say, the elder concluded, that the humans are still out there, traveling between the stars, learning about worlds and peoples they have never seen. The myths claim that one day they will arrive in our space, not as conquerors, but as friends seeking to join the community of intelligent life. The crowd applauded politely as Elder Vextar bowed and returned to his seat. Commander Keth stood to leave, checking her wrist communicator for messages from her ship. As she walked toward the exit, she passed Dr. Korvac, who was gathering his notes. "Still searching for your mythical humans, Doctor?" she asked with a slight smile. The old scientist looked up at her with tired eyes. 30 years of research, Commander. 30 years of exploring dead worlds and empty space. If humans ever existed, they left no trace behind. Perhaps that is for the best, Commander Keth replied. The myths make them sound dangerous. A species that never surrenders and turns everything into weapons might not make good neighbors. Dr. Korvac nodded thoughtfully. True, but I cannot help wondering what we might learn from beings who achieved space travel through determination alone. Imagine the scientific advances, the new perspectives they might bring. Commander Keth left the hall and walked to the transport station, her mind already turning to her patrol duties in the Outer Rim. She would be commanding a routine survey mission along the neutral zone, checking for asteroid hazards and monitoring long-range sensors for any signs of trouble. As her transport lifted off toward the orbital docking station, she looked out the stars and wondered briefly what it would be like to meet a real human. Then she shook her head and laughed at herself. Myths were myths after all. The humans were nothing more than entertaining stories told by old creatures who enjoyed scaring the young ones. She had no way of knowing that in just 3 days, her sensors would detect massive energy signatures approaching from the direction of the mythical human homeworld. She could not imagine that the greatest myth in galactic history was about to become terrifying reality. Deep Space Monitor Station Omega-7 floated in the darkness between star systems like a metal flower with its sensor arrays spread wide. Sensor operator Jake Morrison sat at his console, watching the endless stream of data from the deep space. Scanners. Most nights were quiet out here in the neutral zone. Ships passed through occasionally, but usually they were just cargo haulers or exploration vessels following the established trade routes. Tonight was different. Jake's screen suddenly filled with red warning symbols. Energy readings were spiking across all sensors, showing massive objects moving through space at impossible speeds. He rubbed his eyes and checked the calibration, thinking his equipment was malfunctioning. The readings didn't change. Station Commander Torres to the sensor. "Bay," Jake called over the intercom, his voice tight with worry. "We have unknown contacts approaching from Sector 7. Commander Maria Torres hurried to Jake's station, her boots clicking on the metal deck plates. She was a veteran of 20 years in deep space, and she had never seen readings like these. The objects were huge, larger than the biggest Council warships, and they were moving faster than anything in the galactic database. "How many ships?" she asked, leaning over Jake's shoulder to study the displays. "I count at least 50 large vessels, maybe more," Jake replied, his fingers dancing over the controls as he tried to get clearer readings. "They're coming from the direction of the outer rim, from a system we've never explored." Commander Torres felt a chill run down her spine. The outer rim was empty space as far as anyone knew. No civilization had ever been detected in that direction. She activated the emergency beacon that would alert the Galactic Council to a potential threat. 3 light years away, Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel USS Defiance. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems as they approached their destination. After 2 centuries of preparation, humanity was finally ready to make contact with alien civilizations. The journey from Earth had taken 6 months, even with their advanced faster than light drives. The human fleet had traveled carefully, stopping to study each star system they passed through. They had found evidence of advanced civilizations ahead, radio signals and energy signatures that proved they were not alone in the universe. "Captain, we're detecting a structure ahead," reported Lieutenant Ben Parker from the communications station. "It appears to be some kind of monitoring station." Captain Grant nodded calmly. This was the moment they had prepared for during the long journey from Earth. First contact with an alien species would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "All ships reduce speed to sublight," she ordered. "Take us to yellow alert." "Aye. Want all weapons powered down but ready. We're here to make friends, not start a war." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 50 ships arranged themselves in a defensive pattern around the flagship, their hulls gleaming silver in the light of distant stars. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, built with lessons learned from centuries of warfare and exploration. On Omega 7, Jake Morrison's sensors went crazy as the unknown fleet appeared on his screens. The ships were unlike anything in the Council databases. Their design was smooth and deadly, with weapon ports that could be clearly seen even at this distance. "They just appeared out of nowhere," Jake reported, his voice shaking slightly. 50 ships, all unknown design. They're holding position about 1 million kilometers away. Commander Torres activated the station's emergency protocols, sending coded messages to the nearest Council fleet. Then she opened a general communication channel, broadcasting on all known frequencies. "Unknown vessels, this is Deep Space Monitor. Station Omega 7 of the Galactic Council. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." On the Defiance, Lieutenant Parker worked frantically at his console, trying to decode the alien transmission. A message was clearly meant for them, but it was in a completely unknown language, using mathematical principles he had never seen before. "Captain, I'm getting a transmission from the station," he reported. "It's definitely intelligent communication, but I can't understand it yet." Captain Grant turned to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, humanity's first xenolinguist. The young scientist had studied every theoretical model for alien communication during the long journey from Earth. This was her moment to prove that humans could talk to other species. "Give me 10 minutes, Captain," Dr. Rodriguez said, her fingers flying over her computer keyboard. "I'm detecting mathematical patterns in their transmission. If I can isolate the basic number sequences, I might be able to build a translation matrix." While Dr. Rodriguez worked on communication, Commander Torres watched her sensors with growing alarm. The unknown fleet was massive, bigger than anything the Council had ever assembled. If these ships were hostile, Omega-7 would be destroyed in seconds. Her fears grew when she detected a new energy signature approaching from hyperspace. A sleek warship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the station. Commander Zara Keth's vessel, the Stellar Talon, had responded to the emergency beacon. Station Omega-7, this is Commander Keth of the Sorin Defense Fleet, came the transmission. What is your status? Commander, we have 50 unknown vessels holding position near the station, Torres replied. They appear to be waiting for something, but we can't understand their communications. Commander Keth studied the tactical display on her bridge. The unknown ships were arranged in a perfect military formation, clearly showing they had advanced tactics and discipline. But they had made no aggressive moves, which suggested they might be peaceful. Have you attempted to communicate? She asked. We've been trying for 20 minutes, Torres replied. They respond to our transmissions, but we can't understand their language. On the Defiance, Dr. Rodriguez suddenly looked up from her computer with excitement. Captain, I think I've got it. Their mathematical base system is similar to our quantum calculations. I can establish basic communication. Captain Grant nodded. Open a channel, Doctor. Let's introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Dr. Rodriguez activated the communication system, sending a carefully prepared message using the mathematical patterns she had decoded. The transmission included basic information about humanity and their peaceful intentions. Unknown station, this is Captain Lisa Grant of the United Earthship Defiance. The message began, translated into the alien mathematical language. We represent the human species from the planet Earth. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars. On Omega-7, Commander Torres stared at her screen in shock as the translation appeared. The mathematical conversion was crude, but the meaning was clear. The unknown ships were claiming to be human. Commander Keth felt. Her blood turned cold as she read the transmission. Humans were myths, stories told to entertain children. They couldn't be real. But the ships on her sensors were definitely real, and they had just identified themselves using the name from the ancient legends. Station Omega-7, patch me through to those ships, she ordered, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. Unknown. Vessels claiming to be human. This is Commander Zara Keth of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet. The beings you claim to be are considered mythical by our civilization. Can you provide proof of your identity? Captain Grant smiled grimly as the alien response was translated. She had expected this reaction. According to Earth's long-range sensors, the galactic civilizations were old and established. Humanity would seem impossible to them, creatures from stories rather than reality. Commander Keth, we understand your skepticism, she replied. We have traveled far from our home to meet other intelligent species. Perhaps we can arrange a meeting to discuss our mutual interests. Commander Keth stared at the view screen showing the human fleet. The ships were real. The communications were real. The beings claiming to be human were real. Everything she had been taught about myths and legends was crumbling around her. She activated her emergency beacon, sending a priority message to the Galactic Council on Zephyria Prime. The message was simple, but would shake the foundations of galactic society. Council Command, this is Commander Keth. The humans are real, and they're here. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began within hours of Commander Keth's shocking message. Representatives from all 12 species gathered in the great crystal halls of Zephyria Prime, their voices echoing with confusion and fear. The impossible had happened. The humans were real. Elder Vextar stood before the assembled delegates, his crystalline body trembling with excitement. For decades, he had told the human myths, and now he was vindicated. The stories were true. But Many of the other council members were not celebrating. "These creatures could be dangerous," hissed Senator Thrack of the Corvin Republic, his armored shell clicking as he moved. "The myths described them as violent beings who turn everything into weapons. We should mobilize our fleets immediately." "Perhaps we should try to understand them first," Elder Vextar replied calmly. "The stories also say they are capable of friendship and peace. We should not assume the worst." While the council argued, Admiral Rick Coleman stood on the bridge of the massive human flagship UES Liberty, studying the tactical displays. His fleet of 200 ships was spread across the neutral zone, maintaining a defensive position while diplomatic talks continued. His orders from Earth Command were clear but challenging. Establish peaceful relations with the alien civilizations, but be ready for anything. Admiral Coleman was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and the Jupiter mining conflicts. He understood that first contact with aliens could go wrong very quickly. Humans had learned hard lessons about meeting new civilizations during their expansion through the solar system. Some meetings led to friendship and trade. Others led to war. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from our scout ships," reported Captain Steve Walsh from the communication station. "3 of our exploration vessels have been attacked in the outer sectors." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Details, Captain." The UES Explorer, commanded by Captain Amy Foster, was investigating a dead star system when they were ambushed by unknown warships. Captain Foster is requesting immediate assistance. Admiral Coleman studied the star charts on his main screen. The Explorer was one of their newest ships, designed for scientific research rather than combat. It carried only basic defensive weapons and a crew of scientists and diplomats. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Prepare for combat operations. And get me a direct line to this Galactic Council. If one of their species is attacking our people, I want to know about it." The attack on the Explorer had been planned carefully by War Chief Brock of the Krax hegemony. The Krax were a warrior species that had been held in check by the Galactic Council for centuries. They saw the arrival of the mythical humans as a perfect opportunity to test their strength and expand their territory. The Krax had studied the human myths for generations, just like everyone else in the galaxy. But where other species saw dangerous legends, the Krax saw worthy opponents. If the humans were real, then the Krax wanted to fight them and prove their superiority. Captain Amy Foster was reviewing mineral survey data when her tactical officer, Lieutenant Dan Murphy, suddenly called out from his station. "Captain, we have 3 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown configuration, and they're powering weapons." Captain Foster moved quickly to the command chair. The Explorer was alone in this system, 40 light years from the nearest human ship. Her crew of 60 included geologists, biologists, and cultural specialists. Most of them had never seen combat. "Red alert," she ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Communications. Try to contact those ships. Tell them we're on a peaceful mission." The lead Krax destroyer ignored all attempts at communication. War Chief Brock had decided that talk was useless. The humans would prove their strength in battle or die like weaklings. His 3 ships moved into attack formation, their heavy plasma cannons charging for the first strike. "Captain, they're not responding to our signals," reported the communications officer. "Energy readings suggest they're about to fire." Lieutenant Murphy studied his tactical display with growing concern. The 3 alien ships were larger than the Explorer and carried much heavier weapons. In a straight fight, the human ship would be destroyed quickly. "Captain, we're outgunned 3-1, he reported. "Recommend we retreat and call for backup." Captain Foster considered her options. The Explorer could probably outrun the alien ships, but that would mean abandoning this first contact opportunity. More importantly, Running away would send the wrong message to the galaxy about human intentions and capabilities. "Negative, Lieutenant," she said firmly. "We're not running. From our first real test. If these aliens want to fight, we'll give them one they won't forget." The cracks opened fire first, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the human ship. The explorers' shields flared as they absorbed the energy, but Captain Foster could see they wouldn't last long under such heavy bombardment. "Return fire," she ordered. "Target their weapon systems." The explorer's mining laser, originally designed for cutting through asteroids, sliced through the lead crack ship's armor like paper. The alien vessel staggered under the unexpected attack, its shields failing completely under the focused beam. War Chief Brock roared in surprise and anger. His intelligence reports had suggested the humans used primitive projectile weapons. Number 1 had mentioned energy beams that could cut through military-grade armor so easily. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," he commanded. "Destroy them quickly." Captain Foster watched her shield readings drop rapidly under the combined enemy fire. The Explorer was a tough ship, but it wasn't designed for prolonged combat against multiple opponents. "Lieutenant Murphy, give me options," she said calmly, even as explosions rocked the bridge around them. "The fabrication bays could be converted to produce improvised torpedoes," Murphy replied quickly. "And our navigation satellites could be reprogrammed as guided missiles." "Do it," Foster ordered. "Engineering, I need you to overload the mining laser. Give me everything you've got." Within minutes, the Explorer transformed from a peaceful research vessel into an improvised warship. The fabrication units that normally produced scientific equipment began churning out explosive devices. The navigation satellites designed to help ships find their way through space became deadly guided weapons. The cracks. Ships found themselves facing an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. Every system on the human ship seemed to have a secondary military function. Even the waste recycling units were somehow weaponized to create improvised chemical explosives. Chief Brock watched in growing alarm as his second ship was crippled by a swarm of converted satellites that exploded against its hull. The humans were fighting with a creativity and desperation that the cracks had never faced before. "How are they doing this?" demanded his tactical officer. "Their ship should have been destroyed by now." "Because they're exactly what the myths said they were," Brock replied grimly. "They turn everything into a weapon." The battle reached its climax when Captain Foster made a decision that shocked both her crew and her enemies. With the Explorer's shields failing and hull breaches spreading throughout the ship, she ordered all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. "Lieutenant Murphy, set a collision course for the lead enemy ship," she commanded. "If we're going down, we're taking them with us." "Captain, the escape pods can't carry everyone," Murphy protested. "Then we make sure our sacrifice counts," Foster replied. "Launch all pods. I'm staying with the ship." The Explorer, venting atmosphere and burning from a dozen hull breaches, turned toward the lead Crack's destroyer and accelerated to ramming. Speed. Captain Foster sat alone on the bridge, her hands steady on the controls as she aimed her dying ship at the enemy. Chief Brock realized what the human was planning just seconds before impact. His ship tried to turn away, but the Explorer struck it amidships, both vessels disappearing in a massive explosion that lit up the entire star system. Commander Keth watched the battle from her observation position 12 light-years away. Her sensors recording everything. The fight had lasted 4 hours, and now it was over. The humans had lost their ship, but they had destroyed the entire Crack's attack force dot as rescue ships moved in to collect the human survivors from their escape pods. Commander Keth sent her report to the Galactic Council. The message was simple, but would change everything in the galaxy. The human myths are all true. They never surrender. They turn everything into weapons. and they will die before they let their enemies win. News of the battle at the Dead Star system spread across the galaxy within days. The impossible had happened twice now. First, the mythical humans had appeared in galactic space. Second, they had defeated the Krax hegemony in combat, using nothing but improvised weapons and sheer determination. Admiral Rick Coleman stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, reading reports from across human space. Earth Command had sent reinforcements after learning about the attack on the Explorer. Now over 300 human ships patrolled the edge of Council territory, their presence impossible to ignore. The Admiral studied the tactical displays, showing Krax fleet movements. Intelligence reports suggested that War Chief Brock's defeat had shocked the entire hegemony. For the first time in centuries, the warrior species was reconsidering its aggressive policies. Other hostile factions throughout the galaxy were also pulling back their forces, unsure how to respond to this new power. "Admiral, we have an incoming diplomatic vessel," reported Captain Steve Walsh. "It's the U.S. Harmony, with President Sarah Walsh aboard." Admiral Coleman nodded. Earth's government had decided to handle first contact at the highest levels. President Walsh was bringing a full diplomatic team to establish formal relations with the Galactic Council. Her mission would determine humanity's place in the galactic community. President Sarah Walsh reviewed her briefing materials as the Harmony approached. Zephyria Prime, a massive diplomatic vessel, carried Earth's finest: scientists, engineers, and cultural ambassadors. Unlike the military ships that had first made contact, the Harmony was clearly designed for peaceful purposes, with observation decks and meeting rooms instead of weapon batteries. "Madam President, we're receiving a welcome message from the Galactic Council," reported her aide, Lieutenant Colonel Jack Rivera. "They're inviting us to dock at their main station." President Walsh smiled confidently. As a former ambassador to Mars and the Jupiter colonies, she had experience dealing with different cultures and viewpoints. But this would be her greatest challenge. The decisions made in the next few days would affect humanity's future for generations. On Zephyria Prime, Elder Vextar prepared the Great Council Chamber for the most important meeting in galactic history. The crystalline halls had been reconfigured to accommodate beings who breathed oxygen and preferred artificial lighting. For the first time, the myths would walk among them. Commander Zaraketh stood at attention as President Walsh entered the chamber. The human leader was smaller than expected, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her delegation included beings of different sizes and colors, showing the diversity that the myths had described. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," President Walsh began, her words being translated by advanced computer systems. "We come to you as representatives of humanity, seeking to join the community of intelligent species in peace and friendship." Elder Vextar rose from his crystalline seat, his voice echoing with joy. "Welcome, children of Earth. Your arrival fulfills the greatest prophecy in our history. We have waited long for this day." But not all the council members were welcoming. Senator Thrak of the Corvin Republic stood up, his armored shell clicking with agitation. "These humans destroyed an entire Krax fleet with a single ship. How do we know they won't turn their weapons on us?" President Walsh looked directly at the Corvin senator, her expression calm but firm. "Because we came here to build bridges, not walls. The attack on our ship was unprovoked. We defended ourselves, as any species would. But we seek cooperation, not conquest." Dr. Carlos Rivera, Earth's leading medical researcher, stepped forward carrying a data tablet. "We would like to share our knowledge with the Council. Human medical technology has developed solutions for problems that affect many species." The offer surprised many of the delegates. Most new species demanded territory or trade agreements. The humans were offering to give away their advanced knowledge freely. Dr. Finn Korvik, the scientist who had spent decades searching for proof of human existence, approached Dr. Rivera with excitement. Your species achieved space travel without natural advantages. We could learn much from your engineering techniques. We would be honored to share our knowledge, Dr. Rivera replied. Human adaptability means we've learned to work in many different environments. Perhaps our construction methods could help build better space stations and planetary colonies. Engineer Maria Collins joined the conversation, pulling up holographic displays of human spacecraft designs. Our ships are built to be repaired and modified in the field. We could teach these techniques to council engineers. Commander Keth watched the discussions with growing amazement. The humans were not demanding anything for themselves. Instead, they were offering to help solve problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. Their medical knowledge could treat diseases that affected multiple species. Their engineering skills could improve construction throughout Council. Space. President Walsh addressed the full Council Assembly. We ask only for the right to exist peacefully among you and to contribute to the common good. In return, we offer our friendship, our knowledge, and our protection to those who need it. Protection? Senator Thrack asked suspiciously. You speak of conquest through other words. I speak of justice, President Walsh replied firmly. We've seen what happened when the cracks attacked our people without provocation. We will defend ourselves and our allies with every resource we have, but we will never start a war for territory or profit. Elder Vextar spoke for the entire council when he said, The myths told us that humans would come as protectors and teachers. You have proven the ancient stories true. We welcome you to the galactic community. Over the following weeks, human influence spread rapidly throughout council space. Dr. Rivera's medical teams worked with alien doctors to treat diseases that had been considered incurable. Engineer Collins led construction projects that were completed in half the expected time. Human diplomats helped resolve trade disputes that had lasted for decades. Admiral Coleman established the Human Defense Fleet, with ships patrolling major trade routes and protecting peaceful vessels from pirates and raiders. The mere presence of human warships restored stability to regions that had been dangerous for years. Captain Lisa Grant, now promoted to Admiral and serving as humanity's military representative, stood before the council to give her first formal address. Her promotion had come after she successfully negotiated peace treaties with 3 minor hostile factions, who had seen the fate of the cracks and decided diplomacy was preferable to war. Members of the council, Admiral Grant began her voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen both war and peace. We didn't come to your galaxy to rule or conquer. We came to join the community of intelligent life and to help protect the peace that makes civilization possible. She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives from 12 different species. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves and our allies with every weapon, every ship, and every soldier we have. Those who threaten the innocent will face the full might of humanity. Commander Keth, now serving as the Council's primary liaison to the human fleet, translated the Admiral's words for those who needed clarification. She had grown to respect these strange beings who combined fierce loyalty with genuine compassion. The cracks. Hegemony formally requested peace negotiations within a month of Admiral Grant's speech. Other aggressive factions throughout the galaxy began reconsidering their policies. The balance of power that had been missing for centuries was finally restored. Elder Vextar, now humanity's strongest advocate on the council, reflected on how completely the ancient myths had become modern reality. The humans were everything the legends had promised and more. They were warriors who fought only when necessary, protectors who risked everything for others, and explorers who brought knowledge and hope wherever they traveled. As human ships patrolled, the galaxy's trade routes and their diplomats worked to strengthen peace between species. Every intelligent being in known space understood a simple truth. The age of myths had ended forever. The age of humanity had begun, The humans were no longer legends whispered around storytelling circles. They were hope sailing through the darkness, strength standing guard over the weak, and friendship extended to all who would accept it. When beings across the galaxy looked up at the night sky and saw human warships passing like moving stars, they knew they were witnessing the birth of a new era. The myths had become reality, and reality was far more wonderful than any story ever told.